Sweet. Albie, dude. It's been 7 years, man. Welcome back.
You know what, man? I have such a hard time believing that it's 7 years from the first one I get, and I will 100%, say number one, we're very old. And number two, I could have sworn we've done the show at least two other times, but maybe I'm getting confused with the events.
Yeah, who knows, man? It's wild. I feel like COVID hit in 2020, which was, 2 years after you were on the show. And
Mhm.
since then, timelines don't exist. Like, a week ago was 10 years ago. 10 years ago was a week ago. But like you said, we're old men now. So much has changed. We're both married. I'm a stepdad. You're now a father. Congratulations officially
Thank
on,
you,
on
pal.
the recording.
Yeah, same to you.
But dude, like, I want to talk about that a little bit. Like, how much has that changed your life and how you're approaching everything you're building now, being a father? Because it does change everything.
Yeah, it's you're a completely different person while remaining the same. It's a very, very weird thing, and it's something that I think I adjust to daily. I don't think any day is the same. I didn't have the moment where, and this is all I kept hearing about, like the second you see him, the second you see him, the second you see him. I didn't really have that punch in the face gravity kind of moment. And I think it's because I I I'm very used to putting a lot on me already, so I was really prepared for that. But it hit me the most, like it would hit me in stages. But in the actual moment, it somehow didn't feel like real. There was something about it that felt very out of body experience in like all the best ways.
Yeah.
But when we were leaving the hospital, um, we're just, packing them up, and you've got all these people that are around you. And Chell was amazing. Like, seeing her go through that was the most incredible thing. And I just remember, we put him in the car seat, and they're like, okay, you're free to leave. I'm like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like I just take him home? Is there a book or a man? Like what happens now? When do you guys come by the house? Like all
Yeah. How do I keep
whatever.
him alive?
It
Like,
was crazy. And that's kind of what, you know, the best way I know how to sum it up is that. Like it felt like the kind of thing that it was like, we just paid for the birthing experience kind of thing. We're spending a weekend, as if it was like Westworld, and we're like signing up for some crazy, life event to live through. But it's been the most incredible thing. Like you keep saying to yourself, "Oh my God, he's the most perfect age right now," and then a week goes by, and it's way better than whatever you experienced before. So it also changes a lot of you know your approach and strategy, as like we've known each other a while now. um it definitely takes the risk aversion element of things, uh and changes your perspective there, because obviously there's more people that are depending on you. But you wouldn't trade it for anything, though.
yeah. When we met, I was 33. How old are you now?
39.
Okay. So you're younger than me. So I was 33, you were 32. And we were young guns, meaning like everything was a mile a minute. Everything
Mhm.
was, yes, let's do that. And I've changed perspectives in so many ways because I felt like I was burning the candle at both ends, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this sun up to sundown. I'm exhausted. I'm not getting the results I need. I've fallen into three or four different partnerships that have failed because I was that young guy just excited for the next opportunity. And then like you get strategic, and obviously when you have that child, it becomes even more so because your time, you've realized how valuable your time is. You don't want to spend
Mhm.
all your time working. You want to be with your wife. You want to be
Yeah.
with your kid. So what's that like now? Because I know in your position and you've helped create successful businesses for people and all these things, opportunity comes your way left and right. Like, how do you know when to say yes or no? Because, there are shifty people out there.
It's been incredibly, that's definitely been the most difficult thing, by far, because I kind of felt like on the road to starting your own business, it's an incredibly lonely place, number one. And you have to get really comfortable with that. Otherwise, it's just not for you. It also, you have to have really thick skin and be good with rejection and sometimes failure and the things that come with that. Um, but number one, when you have that no pun intended, but when you really get around that growth mindset and you accept that this is the road that you want to go down, and you also accept that it's not glamorous, but you start adjusting, right? The losses come with the territory. And I developed a really, really thick skin for that. What isn't fun is when you get into things and you are, putting your best efforts in and you make real impact, and then things fall apart for stuff that, you have frankly nothing to do with, or somebody tries to take advantage of you, or somebody's like, hey, I'm going to, take what you've done and run with it, kind of a thing. All these things have happened. And it's the lost time of it that is the sting that you cannot, or I cannot, wrap my head around, the impact of that amount of lost time with a child. I mean, we talked about this recently. I had one of my worst ones ever recently, and
we won't go on the
really,
record with that, but it was wild.
It's bad, yeah, and just the lengths some people will go to be absolutely full of it, which is why I've gotten super jaded, and I do some things that, like, when I sit down with clients, I would never tell them don't have a website, but here are things that I'm doing because sometimes this is what you get dealt. And the worst thing that you can do is in those moments, give it more power and lose more time, because that is the most precious resource there. So you just try your best in terms of putting a structure around you to make sure those things don't happen. Get a great attorney, all that stuff. In this last situation, my attorney was on this, so all of us were pretty blindsided. We were like, "What are you talking about?" But so I only say that to really to say that sometimes when you do everything right, it's there's still a world where things don't land the way you want them to, and you've got to be able to dust off and get right back on your horse and get after it. But yeah, it's definitely never the type of thing where it's like, I'm not going to say it's fun or it's easy. That's never a part of the equation. You just get better at it. You just get better at it.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to get back up when you get punched in the face a couple times, and you get used to it. You get used to that sting for sure. We talked a little bit before we record. I was like, dude, we should be talking about this on the podcast. But when you look back at your past, which I think as part of sitting down with you, yes, there's been so much growth, but also part of that journey is you being on reality TV, one of the biggest reality shows of all time, for however many years you were on. It was funny. The first time I ever talked to you, I was like, dude, I got to tell you, I've never seen the show. And you're like, oh, good. That makes two of us. Right. Like, it was one of those moments. Yeah. Right. But like, we were talking a little bit about like the reality world, which I've had a number of reality stars on this show. But you kind of decided like, hey, I'm moving away from that light. Like, I don't need it. I don't need to be posting on social media all the time. Yes, there's a following there, but it's not really for me. What was it about that decision for you? Like, why did you go, yeah, I'm not going to stay in that world?
It's not even so much about the world so much as it is, I think, a function of some of the, I'm trying to articulate this point correctly. I can't do fake. And on television, there's elements when we were even filming the show. Okay. We would often say it's real reactions to fake situations. In other words, we might be genuinely reacting to something at a dinner, just at the particular dinner in question, we would never be sitting down with the people that we're sitting with. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing. It's like other people that are on the show. I'm not talking about that. Where I've got bigger issues is when things happen in real life that people decide to either, bend light, misconstrue, or, in some cases flat out lie. And they're using that as an opportunity to get some more attention, more followers, whatever it is. That's exhausting. Yeah. And it's really tough because I'm not somebody that's afraid to have conversations and discussions. And I'm not, unconfrontational. I don't go seeking those things out, but I'm never somebody that's afraid to explain themselves, or talk through things, whatever. But it does come to a place and a point where you start to realize that to some people, the the attention is kind of, the means and the ends.
Yeah.
And I just don't live life that way. I can't wrap my head around somebody trying to make stuff up just to get blog post hits and whatever else, or get comments to get followers, or just get under somebody's skin. I don't understand it. And when that end of things, I gotta say, like, I'm definitely on the more positive end of the spectrum in that part of life for somebody that had been on reality TV. But it's just like, you can't, when you start engaging with these people and then you understand that there's no dialogue. Nobody's listening to understand. You know what I mean? They're
Yep.
listening, their mind's made up, And after that, you just kind of get exhausted. You just want to live in real stuff. That's just what you want to do. And you meet so many people that, are around you for the wrong reasons in every aspect of life. And you learn some hard lessons going through that. And then when you then establish your own family, it's just not something that you want to see carry over into, into their lives, So for me, it's just kind of been it's been a pretty easy thing, because in a lot of ways you just put your head down and go to work, and you still got the podcast and stuff like that too. So it's like, there's still that public end of things, and an outlet for that and a voice for that, which I do enjoy. And I'm kind of proud of where that show's gone, because frankly, like, when we started Dear Albie, there were so many things that were related to reality television. Now the last, I think 2 or 3 times I brought up reality TV, I was getting flat out hate mail. Like, we don't come to this show for that. Like, we don't care,
Yeah.
and that was pretty cool. So, I know it's kind of like a roundabout answer, but I think it's just exhausting. I just like, I don't, I don't like engaging in it. Like, I have no problem arguing about something as long as it's real. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and like, I love how you said they've already made up their minds, right? Like, these people who argue about politics and all the nonsense that's going on in the world online, and you're like, what are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
you posting that is doing nothing but just pissing people off, and you're not changing anybody's mind whatsoever. And I actually, on 4th of July, I posted a picture and said, something about, Independence Day or whatever. And at the end, I go, stop making politics your personality. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like it's like this new idea of, like, all of a sudden, like, we've taken on these personalities that are enveloped by issues and problems because it is for attention, right? Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
I've had one thing go massively viral. It was a video of my stepdaughter, who I refer to as my bonus daughter lovingly. And I took a video of her at her Halloween parade. And I did like this weird, like, computer voiceover. I didn't think anybody would even see it. And it said something like, she was like in the Halloween parade, she refused to break character, and she gave like me a creepy wave because she was like a dead doll or something. And so I put a voiceover that said, when you go to see your stepdaughter in her Halloween parade and she refuses to break character, I said bonus daughter in it. 7.8 million views on Facebook, and all it was people arguing over, why the hell would you call your kid a bonus kid?
Yeah.
Like, it was out of hate. Like, all of a
Yeah.
sudden now this controversy is the thing that's made this go viral, and it has
Mhm.
nothing to do with what I do in business. So the virality of it was pointless, right? Like, and I'm just like, this is insane.
Yeah.
But going back to that, where do you think that came from for you? Like, the idea of like, no, I don't need that, because here's the reality, right? Like, if I were put on a huge show like that in my 20s, I probably would have fallen into the trap and
Mhm.
constantly chased that high over and over and over again. Is it how you were raised? Is it what you saw your family do because they were involved too? Like, where was that for you?
I think for me, there was something about being on the show, even from Jump Street, that was it was a very fleeting thing. There wasn't any real security in it, from the sense of like, look, I'm 22 years old with a camera in my face. I'm not really thinking that it's going to last as long as it lasted. But even in that kind of a world, it's like, hey, I'm pretty solid in what I know I want in my life, and I want to have a successful business. I want to work for myself. I want to have a family, and I want to, enjoy life, kind of thing. Uh, it's That's not a sustainable way to create that world and remain private. Obviously you can, blow up and make a ton of money and all that other stuff, sure, but like, it just is so open-ended. It's not like you're sitting down and they're saying, hey, here's a 10-year contract for, X amount of dollars and yada yada. There would be a rolling basis. Oh, we'll see about next year, we'll see about next year. And there's a lot that happens when you get your identity caught up in that.
Mm.
And I think I got to a place too where, you know, you're waking up and you're kind of like, you know, the almost 30-year-old that's, you know, still being referred to as somebody's kid. I'll always be my mom's kid, but you're still being referred to as the kid on the show. You know, we did BravoCon, I don't know how many years ago it was. I was like 36, 35, and it's a kids panel. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
older than some of the people they've got on the Housewives show at that point. And frankly, I've been on it longer. And the thing about it is it's just like, it felt to me like Peter Pan a little bit. And it was getting very hard too, as I say this often, there, it's a weird sentence to be known for everything except for what you're really good at.
Mm.
The amount of people that like, you know, still assume, you know, when you would get hit online, oh, hey, get a job would come up, you know. Meanwhile, I remember the last time I had that, I was getting an email from HR that was running the venue that we were, or that was part of the venue that we were running, emailing me saying, if you do not take a day off, okay, because I had went 80 something days straight, okay, we are quite literally going to have to come and remove you out of the building. This is a problem. Like, we're getting involved. We love you. You got to get out. And in that same day, I'm getting blown up, get a job, loser, whatever it is, yada, yada. So it's funny, like, you know, like I said, people just kind of want, you know, they want to just get enraged by something. And you get a different perspective when it's directed at you for so long. And then you see how that starts to evolve, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, there were just so many points where I said to myself that, you know, I think I crave not so much human control, but some level of predictability. And that world is just not predictable enough for me to be comfortable. But the weird thing about it is, it's not like I didn't enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like I wouldn't enjoy hosting a show or doing this, doing that, as long as it's rooted in true reality. And the further we got away from the first season, the further it got away from real reality, not even because of production and Bravo and whatever. It's because at that point, you've got people that are incentivized to try and make, you know, bust up a restaurant or whatever, because they think that's what got them famous in the first place, you know? And it's not even so much the Housewives' fault. It was always like a friend of, that was always the craziest thing. And it's just no way to live, man. Like, it's just not, you know, it's not, I was telling this story the other day. I'm trying to remember who I said it to. When the table flipped over the very first time, I guess the finale episode of Housewives season 1, I will never forget this. I'm sitting at it. It quite literally lands on my feet. We separate everybody, whatever. And I remember thinking, we walked out and they had this bar area. And I remember thinking to myself, Bravo's going to cancel this show. Like, this whole thing is dead. You can't have people walk into a restaurant and flip tables over and stuff like this. They're not going to want to be associated with any of this.
Yeah.
Probably the worst take ever. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so
I mean, I've never seen the show, and I even know about the table flip.
This is what I'm saying. Like, you know, so like, these are things that, you know, when you're in that moment, that you're, you know, you're built like the type of people that you're just like, who would want to be tied to this? Like, we're going to look like, you know, whatever. Nah, like not even a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
then once, I feel like once you get the like, that happens, it blows up, it goes viral, it goes crazy. Everybody starts to tune in. And then, like you said, people want to do things like that more because, like you said, they're incentivized to be a little wackadoo.
There's definitely that. And there's definitely, look, at that point too, I had worked really hard to try and, you know, get into law school and all that. And, you know, failing out on TV wasn't exactly fun, but the biggest thing is, you don't get to say, oh, well, there was also a camera in my face the entire time. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? It's, you know, so I think that's kind of what I mean too, about like living in the reality of it. So, again, it's been a fun transition in a way. And I definitely wouldn't trade it for anything. I you know, do it 1,000 times.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about you, man, is you're 100% genuine with who you are and the path you've always wanted to take, and now you've built this life that you've wanted to build. And the reason I know that is because and it comes up in my time hop every year because I never watched the show. I posted on Facebook that I'm interviewing Albie Manzo from Real Housewives of New Jersey, and I think I even put I've never seen the show. What should I ask him? Right? And so the comments on Facebook were like, "Oh my God, he's the nicest. He's so driven. Did he find love yet?" Like all these things, and now here we are, right? Like you've built successful businesses, you're working your tail off, you're married, you have a kid, and that's kind of always been the goal. You know, even obviously it was mentioned on the show because these people knew that about you, right? So kudos to you for building the life that you've wanted and continuing to build on that. But give a little light into what you're doing now, just so people listening understand kind of where you are, like in this entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. So I guess back when we had first spoken, I had really just gotten my company and the consultancy off the ground. uh, we spent, did we talk about, I think you might have said even on the show, you got to start a podcast kind of thing.
Yeah, I might have said it in the recording, but we definitely talked about it the first time we connected.
We talked about it at some point. So we started Dear Albie right after, within a couple of months after that. Um, I've been really fortunate, man. The consultancy on that side of things really blew up. And I had a number of big clients out of New York City where, at the time it was helping to build brands. Mostly we were focusing there. And then when COVID came, a major hospitality component was thrown in because we had a venue in Asbury Park that reached out, and we took over this entire hotel during the pandemic and really like blew the thing up. It was like 100 years old. And,
Yeah, my wife and I came out.
Yeah, you did. And, that was, quite a journey. And from there, have taken on 3-4 different venues since, from all different kinds of stints, from obviously years and years that we were in Asbury to a handful of months in some other cases, and everything just kind of based on transformative hospitality. And I'm pretty much all in right now on events. So there's my main client now is a music festival down in Maryland, and a number of other folks that are either entrepreneurial or brands that are looking to get into the events world, because with the amount of AI noise that's out there and having the background that I have in media too, I'm just a big believer in society, and the greater context as we've known it is going to completely change. And one of the only things that we're really going to have is community building and events to really keep the core of like, hey, here's tangible proof of the following I actually have, or, the difference I'm actually trying to make. Do I know, like, how do I know I'm not talking to bots or not? And to me, like, that's kind of the direction we're going.
Yeah.
It's really, it's a lot of fun. It blends kind of how I grew up with the branding side of things, with some things I learned on TV, and really just only work with, it's 100% referral, only work with people I like. Those were, my big, my big pillars I wanted to build on, and really fortunate to have done as well as I've been able to do. But even, every day, and you get it, it's like, okay, it's the what's next of it and what are we building, So that's a lot of the internal conversations I've been having since my son was born, for I think a pretty good reason. And but it's really, it's kind of wild to think back, 10 years ago, like, there were moments I was praying for the phone to even ring, even if it was something stupid. Like I would literally, there are 2 things I remember, and I kept them both. They're actually one's in my wallet. I did the math on if I switched from a double to a single espresso at Starbucks, how that would work out for me, because I went crazy debt when I started the company. And my father gave me a gift card when he heard that story, and I still have the gift card to this day. And I would pick up robocalls just to see, like, I don't even know what I was trying to see, but I would pick up spam calls. Like, yeah, I'm your guy. Like, whatever. What are you trying to tell me? And just, I didn't even know what I was trying to do. But now that's not the case. It's X amount of years later, I was kind of getting tired of hearing my own name. So I wouldn't trade it for anything. But you're always trying to grow, right? So
Yeah, dude, that's a great spotlight on the entrepreneurial journey. and how it can evolve over time if you stick with it. Most people quit in those moments where you want to answer the spam calls just to talk to somebody because nobody else is reaching out. I remember the days, and we're talking probably when we met, I was still trying to piece it all together, right? Like it was starting to take off, like the show took off, but the business, I was like, I don't understand business. Like I'm doing this all wrong. Like I don't know how to make money. And now I've gotten to a place where it's like people are like trying to give me money that I don't want. Like, and that's kind of the journey of like just stick with it, stay true to who you are, keep your head down, and then people are going to find a way to work with you. And I love that you're in the event space because I have a really good friend. His name's Dolph Barron. He's actually one of the leading experts in like neuroscience. Like he speaks at all these conferences. Speaks way above my head is what I'm saying when we have conversations. And he put out this reel the other day talking about how like there's going to be two very successful people in the future. One is the people who master AI,
Mhm.
and the other is the ones who master hospitality,
Mhm.
right? The events and how you're handling it, and the way that you've been doing it for years. You almost saw it before it happened, right? And now you're in this space of like creating experiences for people because that's what we lack, right? So like, what do you think is next for you? Obviously, you're involved with this music festival and a bunch of other things, but like, where do you see that going for you?
Yeah, I think I definitely, I'm on the same page with what I think the future is going to look like as far as, hospitality and in the events world. I look at hospitality and the evolution of it very, very differently. When I say events, right, I'm not just talking, let's say, music festival or a wedding and parties, whatever, although we've done quite literally all of it. I look at the event side of things as quite literally just any reason, okay, to build community and get people together, to, essentially, enhance the quality of life or solve a problem, whatever that means to you, you know, and you're somebody that's embraced it super, super early. The reason I think it's so big, especially in the AI world, is I think the amount of disruption that we are about to encounter uh, is going to be like nothing we have ever seen. And I know that's not really saying much, but I also think it's going to happen a lot faster than we think. So things like I don't think my kid is going to see past fifth grade. I don't know that it'll exist
Yeah.
because just what's going to be the need, with these things and how smart they're going to be. Uh, there and the impact that's going to make on us as people, the amount of jobs that's going to cost us. Um, People that have worked their entire life doing one thing. We just spent the first however many minutes of this conversation talking about, or at least alluding to the fact when you identify with something for long enough and it gets taken away. In my case, there's been a handful of things, but TV in particular, the way we were talking about, not everyone's really built to handle that.
Yeah.
And that is a major psychological thing to go through because you kind of like think about it when we have any conversation. Hey, what do you do? Where are you from? What do you do? You know,
Yeah.
these are the things that define us, right? And when a lot of people are either going to lose what they do or be impacted one way or the other, okay, I think that we are going to desperately need that human connection aspect of things. I think we're going to go into, I think spirituality is going to have a big moment coming up again soon. I think the idea of pivoting and the idea of uh, having a much more close knit community, quite literally within, like, let's say your town's borders itself, county's borders, city's borders. What does it mean to be from place X? Because I think when you have, let's say if, you're looking at, we just brought up education, right? If you have a small town where, let's say, a college is the be all end all, and now, you're at kind of the epicenter of all things that may be changing, uh, and attendance goes down. What does it do, to a region like that, a
Yeah.
geography like that? And what kind of impact does it make? These are all things that I think in a really weird way, it's going to be an exciting time to be a creative because I think it's going to be the most amount of meaning that we can put back into things. It's going to it's almost kind of like we're going to go back to being cavemen with money. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just everyone's going to have something to do, or, a job, or you're making money somehow. But like, hey, we're going to just kind of go back to like, I'm going to throw this football over those mountains. Like, that's literally where I think some of this ends up. From a, I know it's a bit of a left turn, but from like a life meaning standpoint. And I think hospitality is going to have to grow to accommodate that. And I think we're going to have to really show that we care about people. I think that there's going to be like, I think the math right now on a Disney trip for a family of four, the minimum somewhere around like $12,000 to $15,000.
Well, I'll tell you this. We go to Disney. We're not going this year, but we've gone the last 3 years. We stay at the Polynesian. Yes, it's a little bit of a higher one. There's four of us. It's 10 to 12 grand when we go. And that's just for like 4 nights.
So, so think about it, right? Like that is not at all, right, what the vision was when they're putting Disney World together.
Yeah. When I was a kid, tickets were like $35.
It was where you went. Like it was a value driven thing. From a corporate mentality, there are so many things that have changed. We've priced out almost everything. Everything's got a luxury angle, and that's great. I'm not saying there's not a place for it. I've been really, really, really good at making money, especially for other people. Okay. And I think there's going to be a major moment for treating people in a way that is fair, respectfully. You care about them, you give them what they pay for, kind of thing. But also you're a little bit more of a wide berth. I don't think it's going to be as simple as like a restaurant for me. To me, I almost look at it like, what are the things that we're doing that's going to be a little bit more focused, let's say on, everything from wellness to art programs to, putting museums together to keep people in touch with the history of a certain geography. Like those are the things that to me get excited, or catching a performance. I think we're going to get a little bit more into like the campus lifestyle stuff too. And hospitality, I'd like to see a lot more of that. There are a lot more ambitious projects that way. But I do think hospitality is going to play just a really, really critical role in just, everyday life, frankly, even bigger than it does now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fascinating because, people are like, well, why, you're doing this event. Why are you doing this event? And I go, honestly, man, because when you're in the room with people and you're making a connection, it changes the game.
Yeah.
And we're getting, and now, I mean, obviously when I did it back in 2019, this wasn't part of the conversation, but with AI, we're so connected that we're disconnected, if that makes sense.
You're almost muted. Your brain mutes to it. It's like it's how I've gotten with the news. Like at a certain point, you just can't watch anything. I don't want to hear what's going on. I don't want to hear about it. Like I'm exhausted. I feel like that's where we're going to get in content. Because look, it's tapping into the things that no one is really saying the quiet part out loud. How many people are just flat out lazy? Hey, make me an AI, make me a show, whatever. You're going to put videos up on LinkedIn, ready, set, go.
Yeah.
Like, Dead internet theory is already way out there. It's already over half the traffic on the internet right now is not a human being.
You know how many ads I get on like my Instagram scroll where it's like, make a faceless YouTube channel and make a ton of money and you don't have to do any of the work. Like that's what's being pushed out.
Yeah.
And it's just wild to me. I'm not look, I want to be clear on this. I'm not saying don't embrace AI. You have to be able to use it because it's going to be there, right? And you will be left behind if you don't use it. But if you miss the human exchange, if you miss the why behind what you're doing, like that's when everything's going to fall apart, right? And that's why I love what you're doing as far as like even you mentioned campus experiences, because dude, I will tell you this: I have a stepson in high school, and he runs on the track team and cross country team, and there's this team of 40 kids or whatever, and when they're not running, all of them are sitting on the field staring at their phones.
Yep.
There's no sense of real interaction. Right. And I'm just like, okay, like what I hope it happens. I don't know if it will. This is the first time we've ever seen it. Right. I hope that he like starts to put his phone down and have those conversations. But I don't know. We didn't have phones when we were that age. So it's like we didn't have the opportunity. We had to actually go talk to the girl. Right. Like that's just part of it. And so like I just love where you're going with all of it, and it's just super fascinating to me, and it kind of brings me, to this idea of like legacy, and like the legacy that we want to leave behind, right? And you're creating experiences for people, that's a massive legacy that people will remember forever. So I want to ask you this question. I don't know if I asked this question back in 2019. I ask most of the time this time, but I want you to imagine you're at the end of your life. You've created however large of a family you want to create, all the beautiful things, but everything content-wise, from the Real Housewives to the events that you're creating to all these things that you're a part of, That's disappeared. Podcast is gone. And you can only be remembered for one sentence. What would you want that sentence to be?
Oof. Heavy. How'd I answer this last time?
I don't know if I asked it. I don't know if I asked it back then. I think that question came later in my life.
I'm like, I think I've heard this question before. How do I want to be remembered? It's really funny because it's hard to not entirely think about my son. It's really just about that for me at this stage. And I think how I'd want to be remembered from him is bro, I don't remember the last time I used a sentence to answer anything. I talk too much as a rule. But I think in being remembered, it would be I'm trying to just run you out of time now. No, I think it's the kind of thing where I take a lot of pride in the idea of being the person people call when they have a problem that they can't fix. Whether it's family, friends, business, whatever. And I think if there's anything I'd want my son to look back and think on is that no matter what it was, what the situation presented, challenges, fun things, that I was always around and there was nothing he couldn't talk to me about where I didn't make any situation I touched worse than it was. I'd wanted to be known for somebody that everything I got involved in, I made better. That would be it.
I love it. It's a great answer.
That would be the long thought process headstone move.
I had to fast forward 50 to 60 years in the future for you on that one, but
I hope so.
It's a great, fingers crossed, right? It's a great answer, man. So I want to ask you this as well. I know that I asked this back in the day. I don't know what your answer was, but it's a two-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? The second part is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
My definition of success is waking up excited every day with what I'm doing. I definitely don't look at success in monetary terms, and I've learned that in ways that are good and bad. It's never, ever, ever as good as you think it's going, and it's never going as bad as you think it's going. It's that those definitions can get changed really, really, really quick.
Yeah.
So, it's being excited, and the 3 things I do each day to keep that excitement going is, number 1, constantly evaluate the people that you're surrounding yourself with and know when to respect your own boundaries when things are going left. Making yourself, available, but knowing when to cut that off. That's been a new one, like restricting some access, because it's very easy as we get older and as our priorities start to shift to get a little, mentally drained. And I'm also finding that keeping, good care of yourself physically is much more of a chore than when we were younger. But it's like, I can't be on a pedestal on that too much. That's like the last month where I've been all over that.
We lock back in every once in a while. At the age of 40.
Yeah.
No, dude, I love it. So obviously, look, there's some people that are listening to this. They might run events. They might do whatever. What would be a takeaway from a conversation of a person who's doing events? Like, how can they make sure that it's truly an experience for people versus just another thing people go to?
The biggest thing that I feel like people make mistakes with in events, in the events world, and in the hospitality world in general, I am a big believer that hospitality entirely and events are entirely through your ears. It's understanding what people want. If there's any amount of creativity that comes from, I don't consider myself a creative person at all. I don't know when it started to happen, but I started hearing that a lot when we got into the hospitality, where, oh, hey, we're gonna, we ran 4 restaurants out of 1 kitchen, when we were in Asbury. Each one of them had a completely different menu identity and all this other stuff. Everything entirely, right, was a function of just listening to what people actually wanted, and in the events world, it's no different. And, I would say, look, in podcasting, it's as simple as knowing your audience, right? And and then in like any other business, just, know your audience and then care about your audience. So then everything starts to just naturally flow. When you start going into this thinking you're some kind of genius, okay, you may go on a run. Like that's definitely the kind of thing that's in, it's in the cards for you, um, but it's not about you. And you will eventually at one point or another hit that wall where, you know, Salt Bay is a perfect example. Okay. Like, you get that meteoric rise where people are like, and then eventually it's like, hey, I just paid $1,200 for a steak. This guy just threw a bunch of salt on it, kind of walked out. I'm not really loving what I'm going through here. It, those are the kind of like flame out things that can happen. I think when you get a little too into yourself. So I think it's understanding if anything's going to make you special in that kind of a space, it's going to be understanding people better than the next guy over.
Yeah. So I want to, before we get to the last question, I want to give a shout out to Dear Albie, which is the podcast that you launched a number of years ago. And I've loved the evolution. I chime in and listen in every once in a while, but I love the evolution because I think that's kind of the vision you've always had. You knew you had to start in the niche of the reality thing, taking questions, doing that, and then it evolving over time because you got to show your true colors. Tell us where Dear Albie is now, and then where you'd like to see it go in the future, and how can people listen?
Yeah, so we're out there wherever you get your podcast, kind of thing. It's in an interesting place because I'm debating on what direction to go with it, if at all. When I launched Dear Albie, I think we talked about this, like on text. I sat on it for a year when we recorded it because I was just embarrassed because at the time it was like, I'm going to be 30 years old and, I'm literally living at my mom's house and recording in the basement. Like, this is not the move. It's a nice studio, but it's, it's still in the basement. And I waited and I actually looked up on the algorithm for Instagram and Twitter and all that, like when the worst time was to post anything. And it came up like Tuesday at 2:30. And I went downstairs because I felt horrible for the guys that I had done this with. And because I kept kind of like coming up with excuses. And I waited till Tuesday at 2:30 to post that it was out. And I just went to the gym after. It was like, I'm not going to think about it. And at 8:00, Nando calls me freaking out. He goes, go on the top charts list on Apple. And it was like, number 48 in the country. And I was like, no way. Like, this is the craziest thing. And it was a heck of a shot in the arm. I don't even think back then, though, I could have ever thought it was the kind of thing that would go this long or end up in any way, getting paid to do this. I think there's definitely, and I think because of the alignment, that it has with a little bit more of real life and how about the audience that it is, it's created this little community of people that I'd never really want to disappoint. So it's kind of like, I've been doing it once a week since we've started. I think the longest break we ever took was 3 weeks. And it was like audio issues. So like, it's really been fun seeing that all kind of come to life, but it's different now with, my actual real life kind of evolving. So we'll see what direction it ends up going in. I'd say it's either going to get like a big time video component real soon, or it's going to be the kind of thing where I'm just going to wrap it up. So, it's definitely still a great time to jump on, and it's like, people come in and ask questions. It was originally like a Dear Abby spoof, and people just started writing in Dear Albie stuff, and still goes to this day. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a really fun show to come on. You got to come on,
dude. I would love to come on. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I'll tell you this: the video component, it's something that I missed the boat on 100%. Like when I started this show, my whole thing was like, nobody's gonna sit down and watch 2 talking heads next to each other, and then COVID hit, and I realized that like for you, I mean, I had interviews with people like you and Fabio and Bert Kreischer and all these big names, and all that video content got fried on an external hard drive that I can never get back again. And you kind of go, oh wow, I guess I should have been I should have been using
Mhm.
the video content. But again, back then, Instagram wasn't video. You know what I mean? All that
Yeah.
was long form YouTube stuff. You weren't creating clips. You weren't creating, reels that'll engage. So I'm interested to see where you end up going with the show. Would love to be on. I think it'd be a ton of fun. But with that being said, dude, I want to wrap up this interview how I wrap up every other one. But before I get there, is there anything else you want to add that we didn't touch on?
I think we covered it all, man. Think, feeling good. How you feeling?
I feel good, man. I think this was good. But like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the same question, and I bet you your answer has changed. But in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
I mean, it's Albie all day long. You know, it's weird. I don't know how else to describe this, but this is something that I never saw coming in fatherhood. Like that never even came up as a thought. And I think it's the kind of thing that I really respect about stepfathers, because I think this has got to be a lot more present for folks that go down that journey, right? I never had someone that I was more in charge of everything that they have going on in their entire existence, where I said to myself, I hope he likes me. Like that's
Yeah.
a real thing. Like I never thought for a second I'd be like, does he like me? Like, it's not like we don't, 11 months old. Like we're not, you know. But yeah, like there's something to that, and I think that just comes from loving something so much that like you just kind of want their whole world to be great, and I think that's been a real eye opener for me as I kind of look backwards on reality TV things, because there's so much that you experienced that was fun and great and whatever that you end up looking at like, that wasn't what I thought it was, or I wouldn't want that for him,
Mm.
and and I think those are real moments of growth in that little pocket of things.
Yeah, I love it, dude. So I'll tell you this: he will not always like you,
No, definitely not.
but he will always love you because you're a present person and you
Mm.
care that much, right? Like, and I think that's the craziest part about raising children is like, I say all the time about my stepkids, man, I love them like they're my own, but I don't always like them. And I
Mhm.
can say that
Yeah.
because the little one just left and the other one's at beach camp, so I can
Mhm.
say it even louder.
Yeah, there you go.
They're a gift, they're a challenge, they're a lesson. And yeah, it's totally different being a step parent, I imagine, than being a biological parent. Like I never had that like that moment that you had of like, oh, now I'm taking this thing home and I have to deal with this, and which was a blessing to me because if you're crying and you can't verbalize to me why you're crying, I don't have the patience for that. So babies for me are not the jam. That
Uh,
that's for
Hey,
sure.
no, dude, it's a major, major mantle to pick up. And I'm not just saying this. I mean, one of my best friends, uh, is a step parent in a sense. They never even got married. But what's funny about it is, you sign up for all of the hardest parts of it and you kind of bake in the easiest excuses to, for them later to argue with you in a way. And there's this weird, um, there's this role that takes place, obviously, that's a very, very important one. And you're almost kind of all the time, like, you know, in this phase of I don't want to say uh like tryout or friendship stuff. It's very different. It's not that immediate biological I have to listen to you because it's always that like you're not my dad thing. But in a lot of ways, that's stepping up in so much of a bigger moment. When number one, for whatever the reason is, and everybody's story is different, but it's it's so much to take up and take on. And it's such an amazing, incredible relationship that I think you got to be built amazing for. And those kids got to be really lucky to have you in their life. So it's not an easy thing to go through. And I just I give you a lot of credit, man.
Thanks, man. I'll say this. It's funny because Aiden's away at beach camp with his cross country team for this week. And it came up in my time hop yesterday because of pictures that I remember what we were doing on the day. 6 years ago, Aiden told me that he hated me.
Yeah.
And it was just straight up like, I hate you.
Yeah.
And
And it's
it was
not like,
like, what? And it's so
Yeah.
funny because we bring it up later and he
Yeah.
gets so like emotional about it. And he's like, I didn't mean it. I didn't, that's not what I
Yeah.
meant. And blah, 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 blah. But I was like, oh, I said to Lauren, I was like, oh man, I wish Aiden was here so I could tell him that it's the 6 year anniversary of him hating
Yeah.
me. Like
At least,
it's a wild ride,
yeah.
man. It's a
Well, at
wild
least
ride.
I'm in that spot. At least I get to go off. You know what I mean? Like I can like blow up. So it's a lot. It takes a lot of patience, man. And I think no matter what, there's so much good that comes out of you in this kind of a role, right? Like in going through it, however you get there. And you know, I think it checks the biggest box. He makes it exciting to wake up. So
It's true. Albie, man, thank you so much for coming back on the show, dude. Thank you again for your friendship and everything, man, over the last 7 years. And I look forward to having you back on. Hopefully it doesn't take another 7 years.
yeah, sounds good, brother. Thanks again.